Why? It looks like it's okay. It's just troubling that there's just a pile of solder there. Okay, whatever. Let's see what else we got here. We got, make sure these are 42 millimeters. Well, the nut is the right width. So these are bone nuts. So here's the thing: you can make your own bone nuts, or you can order pre-slotted ones. I get the pre-slotted ones just because it saves me time, and I know that the positioning is correct. I do 2 different nut widths. So on my Royas, they're the same scale length, but on my Royas, I do the modern nut width, which is 43 mils. On my Big River, which is more of like a telly vintage thing, I do the 42 millimeters. 1 millimeter doesn't seem like a huge difference, but it does make, you can feel that difference on the fingerboard. It's really subtle, but it's there. So I just do my, I like to have each one kind of a little bit more suited for what they are. I was actually thinking about, I do these in 12, but I'm thinking about doing a new shape, more of a Gibson style to a certain degree, in that it's going to be a 4-degree tilted headstock. I'm thinking about doing it a 16-inch radius and a 24 fret neck. So it'll be more of I don't know what to describe it, but it's just more of a lead guitar, kind of a more versatile instrument than what I'm making with these ones. Which, it's not that they're not good instruments, it's just like doing one that it's just like a real player's instrument for those who want to do their solos. Not that you can't do solos with 22 frets, but just really good fret access, but not a metal guitar. It'll be, oh no, you'll see. I have it all figured out, and I'm thinking about doing it 25, doing a little bit shorter scale length, just kind of getting out of the Fender spec for a little while. Doing more of a PRS scale length. Not that there's a huge difference. There's more of a difference between the 24 and the 25 than the 25 and a half and the 25. Like, yeah, it's half an inch, but Gibson is about almost 25, is like 24.9 something. PRS is 25. So I was thinking about doing a 25-inch scale length, just to have something a little bit different. It's a different neck angle, it's a different neck shape, so I might as well make a different guitar. And then after that, I'm going to do my Roya Destroya, my Destroya model, which I'm going to do a shredder guitar just for fun, just to prove I can make metal guitars. I can totally make metal guitars. It'll probably just look kind of like halfway between a Kiesel and a Jackson, probably. Yeah, exactly. Why would you want to just replicate a guitar? I don't like to replicate certain things. You have to keep in standard because it makes it easier to get hardware. Hey, Goat Gotti, thank you for that follow. So a lot of mine, I'm doing Fender spec, and I use a lot of Fender hardware, especially with my Big River. You're just sassing me, Hank Gubson. I thought it was Hank Butt. Now it's Hank Gubson. So I changed the plate. I finally got my plates in. These are the Fender custom plates. I need to get these engraved now. I need to find somewhere to engrave them. But I'll show you. I'm even going to start doing these on my Big Rivers as well. I think that's just a great, I've showed this before with the black one, but not with the chrome. And that'll just be a nice place to have my logo and my information and everything. It'll be my logo, Hank Bud Guitars, made in Canada. Right there. So that's another thing I gotta do. I'm branding all these things. These things are getting properly branded. Name on the headstock. Various things. That's a really good point, Luke. It's true. It's hard to find cases if you go too weird with your shapes or too big. My stuff is actually, my Big River is smaller than the Fender, just a little bit smaller, like narrower. But yeah, they fit Fender cases just fine. So that's another thing. When you get really, really customized, it can get very, like you'll have to customize the case, which is an added value thing if you want to make cases as well. Or just at least you can just get, you know what you do, Luke? You just get a gun case, a big square gun case, then you just cut the foam into your shape. That's what a lot of guys do. That's what Will does for his. And then you can get, like, you don't have to worry about it moving, but just get a gun case. And you can get the foam that's already pre-cut into squares, and you just tear out what you need. Yeah, the gun, like, it'll make you feel really cool walking around with your gun case guitar. I keep my gun in my guitar case and my guitar in my gun case. So I got these truss rods. Pretty standard, pretty chunky. They're fine for my necks, but I prefer the low profile ones a lot better. But it will do. So all that came in, so I'm good. I'm good on that. I've been slow going on the neck. I haven't even worked on the neck since last time because it doesn't really matter because the body is so far from being done at this point that the neck is not, getting the neck done now is like, yeah, if it gets done, it gets done, and then it's just going to sit for a while. I do have to spray. The neck with what I'm going to do is a matte finish on the neck and the fingerboard. Then I'm going to put my decal on there, and then the headstock will be glossy, but everything else will be a matte finish because I don't really like gloss on the neck. It's too sticky. So it's just going to be a nice matte finish, not too glossy, not too sticky, but the headstock will look really nice. So I have to do my my logo. I have to figure out how I'm going to do my name. It'll probably be in red across there. So that's even though I do have the HB on there, it's just like I got to do the things. Always have to do the things. Anyway. Still can't find the fret rocker. That's nice and even. So far, so good. I'm just going 3 frets at a time. And if there's any wobble, then I know one of the frets is too high, like this one right here. Then I have to re-crown these. But for the most part, like I said, I made sure I got these as even as possible because I did not want to crown these too far down. So anyway, Tari, how are you doing? I'm rocking. Yeah, the frets are pretty good. Like I said, I tried to make it as even as possible. Sad news, I was eating a burrito with Simon today. Perfect Simon came into the shop and hadn't seen him in a while. He dislocated his shoulder, didn't fall off the boat, but he fell down something on a boat. Dislocated his shoulder. So now he's trying to set up a shop and he's all messed up. So Perfect Simon is leaving the shop at the end of the month. So we had possibly one of our last burritos together, as we always do when he gets back from sea, is he gets burritos and we eat burritos and talk about guitars. So he'll still be in the neighborhood though. But Perfect Simon is moving on in a good way, He's been working really hard on his acoustics, and he is getting ready to his next guitar. He wants to put up for sale. So Simon has been building for years, and he has yet to put a guitar up for sale. He's given, and that's kind of how it is with acoustic building. Or with any sort of guitar building, it takes you a while to get yourself up to speed as far as quality goes. The reason acoustics take longer is they take longer to build. So you can build like multiple electric guitars. Like this last year, I did over a dozen electric guitars, and I feel like now I'm at a point where I've worked out all the little kinks, and stylistically, not that my guitars were bad last year, they just weren't where I wanted them to be. And you kind of have to explore. Yeah, you can't CNC an acoustic body. Just a much longer process. The CNC is so great for rapid prototyping. It definitely speeded up my ability to produce the kind of guitars I want to produce with not having to worry about, like my necks always fit in the pocket, like things like that. Acoustics, you're like, man, getting that pocket lined up is such a pain. Not so perfect Simon. No, he's still perfect. The reason we called him Perfect Simon is because he would spend so much time. It's not that his guitars were necessarily perfect. It's that he would spend so much time on them that we were like, what are you doing? He's just making it perfect. But he wants to produce a lot more. So it won't be the last time we see Perfect Simon. So I leveled the frets, and now I'm taking a diamond. You see all the diamonds there? I'm using this to crown the fret now, to round it back over, which isn't taking too much time, even though these are stainless steel frets. They're rounding over fairly quickly because I didn't have to flatten them very much to even them off. Like this one's fairly flat, that one. But that's about it. It just looks like these two are super flat. Not even super flat. Also, these are jumbos. This one's fairly flat. There's a lot of material on the jumbos. I prefer medium highs, but apparently jumbo frets are the most popular. The next being mediums, medium highs. You can get different widths. Again, acoustic guitars are different. You have thinner frets usually. Some people like really thin frets. Ideally, I like medium width, high enough that I just have a lot of material if I need to take stuff off. There's nothing wrong with the jumbo frets. Like I said, they are the most popular frets, but most people I don't think have strong opinions either way. Time to get a shop cat and call it Perfect Simon. Yeah. Actually, shop cats aren't such a good... They tend to crawl into machines, and you don't know they're there until you turn them on. So that's the problem with shop cats. Emmett will be our shop dog. But Tari, you have opinions. Do you have an opinion on frets? I think most people don't really care. I think a good fret dressing is all that really matters as far as playability. But I like the look of the mediums. Not really. Wow. Like I said, a lot of people don't have opinions on it. The biggest problem will be, are they even? Are they sharp? Do they cut your hands? Kind of thing. That's all players really care about. I know who has opinion. But Bumstead, are you there? You have opinions about frets. But Bumstead has an opinion. Come on, Bumstead. Yeah. Well, these will last a long time. These will definitely last a long time. I don't know how much play this guitar is going to get. It will go out into the world and do its thing, whether that's in some capacity as hanging on his wall in a collection, or who knows what will happen to this. Bayshirt doesn't know what he prefers. Stainless steel or go home. Don't worry, Bumstead. I was going to do nickel, but you convinced me. I'm doing stainless steel now. Actually, the reason I did stainless steel is I could get them overnight. I couldn't get any nickel right away, and the only frets that I could get that were already pre-cut on the sides were stainless steel. So I was like, it'll save me time because they're already the overhang was already pre-cut. So it is cheaper in the long run to buy those big spools and then bend it yourself, but it's kind of like, I don't want to spend like $100 on frets right now. I just want one set of frets. And I need it tomorrow. Yeah, but that could just be how they're set up. But that's true. It's like you could have that. I was talking to Jer about it, and he doesn't like stainless steel because he says they slide too much because they're so dense. Whereas nickel, you can kind of feel the string biting into it a little bit. So there's a little bit more friction when you play, and he prefers that. He doesn't like the fret sliding, but if you're depending on your style, you would actually want that in certain styles. They definitely last longer, so it might take you longer to do a fret dress, but it might be the last fret dress that ever has to be done. Probably not, but. But Bumstead, do the stainless steel frets stay shinier longer? Is there any difference when you polish a stainless steel as opposed to nickel? They both dull after a while. That's why I don't really go to town polishing my frets, because I know it won't last. It might look good for the pictures or something, which I probably, on this one, I'm going to go to town. But usually I don't. And one of the things, because on my Big River doing the Relict hardware, I don't have to polish the frets. They can just be dull and it doesn't matter. Forged scale frets. I need some special forged frets there, Jack. Yeah. Yeah, it depends. It depends. I think. I don't know. I don't know. That depends on the player. Whatever makes them feel good. Whatever makes them feel good, that's good enough for me. But. So I was working with Bill the other day, wooden frets, nylon strings. So you assume that they do. We're going to need some data on that. Because the nickel, well, they just always dull over time. There's no way to keep them shiny. Fretless. So Bayshirt on lutes back in the day before frets. Let me tell you how how guitars were before frets is that they would use gut, the same material that they would use for the strings. They would wrap, they would tie gut around, so you could adjust them if you wanted to, and that's how you would do your frets. So then the back of your neck was like covered in like gut tied around it. That's how they did it. But you could get perfect intonation, because then you could, not perfect intonation, but you could slide them around to get exactly where you wanted the fret to be. But they weren't very high. Yeah. Yeah, it's just one of those things. One of those things. Before, I don't know when frets were invented. They had them in the 18th century. Definitely 19th century had them. So I guess, I don't know, they were forging frets in, I guess, the 1700s when you started seeing guitars. So in the 18th century is when the guitar became a thing. And it was no longer a lute. The tuning was different. And so in the 18th century, sitar frets are tied on and movable. Yeah. So like that's just what you did if you wanted frets. The guitar, let me tell you about the guitar. Its inception was a high-end instrument. That's the funny thing about the guitar. It was a rich person's instrument. Poor people played banjos and gut strings and stuff like that, and fiddles. Of course, there was the classical instruments that were very well made. But, so that's where the word parlor guitar comes from, is you would play it in your parlor. The medieval banjo, the hurdy-gurdy was the peasants' or like EDM machine. Yeah. So rich people played guitar, specifically rich women. The guitar, if you look at the 18th century guitars or the Baroque guitars, they are really fancy. They are very expensive, and they started off being very fancy because basically, if you were a wealthy woman and you wanted to entertain your friends, because these women, they weren't allowed to get jobs, these wealthy women, because they were too wealthy, right? But they had nothing to do. So a lot of them learned music. And because they had nothing to do. They had servants. And they even if they wanted to go work in the garden, they were not allowed because it was beneath them. So there was all these things that they just couldn't do. So they pursued art. Art was okay as long as they didn't sell it. So there was a lot of music and stuff was all women playing guitar. And so you would invite people over and you'd play guitar. So the guitars were smaller and incredibly ornate and beautiful and just amazing little instruments. And that's where the parlor guitar, you would invite people over and play the parlor guitar. And then it was like the romantic guitar. So if you were courting someone, the lady would invite all of her suitors over, because that's what you did back then, and she would sing a love song, and she would make eyes at the one dude, or maybe more, to entice them and stuff. It was this whole kind of rich person courting ritual from the 18th century and 19th century. So anyway, that's the origin of the guitar. Then the Spanish started building peasant guitars. That's where the tradition of like the modern guitar comes from, is the Spanish. And so they started building their own guitars that were very simple, that they could build themselves. There was all these new woods coming into Spain from the New World that they could build out of, and they were cheap. They could get these cheap woods, and so they didn't have to like import anything crazy. They could just get these like Spanish cedars and stuff like that. So anyway, then the Spanish kind of brought it back into like kind of the common man's domain, and that's where like flamenco music, and all that stuff. So the history of the guitar is very interesting, but the guitar has always been, for the most part, an urban, well-to-do person's instrument. So in North America, the banjo was the poor man's instrument. In the city, they played guitars. So it's just, it's kind of funny. All these trends, these kind of cultural trends, manufacturing trends, all these things, musical trends that all just kind of play off each other in different classes and different groups of people in different places. And it's the story of the guitar is very interesting. It's very interesting. Yeah, there's no radio. Yes. And so Tari, that was another thing when they started printing. If you wanted to buy an album in the 1500s, you bought sheet music. So there was a market in sheet music. And so a lot of the people knew how to play instruments, specifically, again, the women at home knew how to play instruments. And so they were buying sheet music. And that's how you learned songs. That's how music, popular music, was spread through sheet music. So that's how they sold albums back in the day. So yeah, away to my chamber, exactly. Bay Shirt knows how to do it. Spanish imported Spanish cedar from the New World. Yeah, Spanish cedar isn't actually from Spain. But not for what Spanish cedar is amazing. It is so light and easy to work with, especially with hand tools. Like, there's a reason why the traditional Spanish guitars use Spanish cedar, which is a South American wood. It is so light. It is so nice to carve. It's like mahogany, but way lighter. And it bends really easy. It's just a great material to work with, especially for that style of guitar. The 18th century guitars are made more like lutes. They are solid wood. They're not... the Baroque guitars are segmented pieces, not exactly like the lute, which is a bunch of like segments, like kind of grafted over a mold. That's how they get that shape. The 19th century, 18th century guitars are just a bunch of like elaborate joined wood carved out. They're thicker and stuff. They weren't bending the sides quite yet. I don't think they were doing. The backs were solid pieces of like laminated wood, and the sides were much thicker, very elaborate rosettes. The Spanish, basically, there was a lot of guitar builders at the time, but like the Spanish guitar was taking kind of like violin making practices of bending sides and gluing the top and kind of applying it to guitar making, which was very interesting. Cuban cedar, yeah, I know. It's super confusing. Yeah, Spanish cedar is not from Spain. It's not even a cedar either. It's like, it's not cedar. It's not from Spain. Why are we calling it Spanish cedar? It would be like calling Canadian maple German oak. Doesn't make any sense. But yeah, the history of the guitar is the history of humanity. And we haven't even gone to the 19th century, the Romantic guitar yet. I really like the Romantic era of guitars. They are the percussor. The great thing, let me tell you about the 19th century guitars, the Romantic guitars. These are parlor guitars. These are straight up parlor guitars. So they've dropped a lot of the ornamentation from the Baroque era. So they're not as like high end. Like they're still high end instruments, but they're not the Baroque era. I'm an opulent nobleman kind of thing, and I'm showing off. They're very nice instruments, but they were getting into more of just almost there. Like you can tell they're yeah. The Baroque sound holes are so pretty. Yeah, they're like cathedrals. They're amazing. There was separate artisans who did the rosettes, who did the binding, that did everything. That's another thing about the Baroque guitar is it was rare that there was just one artisan working on those. There was lots of artisans working on those. Whereas the 19th century guitars, hey, DeLongis, thank you for that follow. The 19th century, you started to see individual makers, individual luthiers building the entire instrument like a violin or, you know, more like that. And so they became much more individualized in like, oh, that's that maker. And there was a lot of really good German builders from the 19th century. There is mostly a lot of really good for some reason there was just a ton of like German parlor guitars, probably because they were just kind of industrializing and manufacturing that, because they had the machinery to do it at that time. And they're in England and France and everywhere else. They all had theirs, but there was a lot of German 19th century guitars for some reason. Yeah, instrument building, yeah. Well, and they were almost into mass manufacturing. Like it almost reached that point where like you had builders who were doing, you know, hundreds of guitars in their lifetimes. And you saw the beginning, machine head tuners were a thing. They were actually, they would have to get watchmakers to make the tuners and stuff. So you're starting to see the Industrial Revolution kind of influence the guitar making, and so the 19th century guitars are almost modern guitars, and then Torres made the modern classical, and then everything changed. Hey, DeLongis, thank you. I'll just quickly I'll grab one of them. This is the last one I made. Hey, Karen, how are you doing? This is a walnut semi-hollow. Yeah. You know what? The Germans tuned their instruments a little differently. I'm not really well versed in classical instruments, but here's an interesting thing, Tari. When I was building clarinets, reporting for Stalker Duty, welcome back, Karen, #1 stalker. When I was building clarinets, we were building French. Yeah, Germans were down-tuned before it was cool. We were building French-style Selmer clarinets. So the German clarinets are actually different. They have a different sound. They're not exactly the same as the French ones. So if you're playing for a German orchestra, the tuning's a little bit differently, apparently, enough so that you need a different clarinet. I don't know if that's the same. Obviously, with stringed instruments, you can just tune it to whatever you need. Because obviously, like, tunings have changed. Baroque tuning is different from modern tuning. But I know with clarinets, the German clarinets are different from the Selmer, the Con Selmer clarinets, as far as tuning goes. Anyway, this is a black walnut guitar with a flame maple neck. This is the last one I did. I'm gearing up for finishing. I'm just doing the frets on this one, and it will be the fancy one. But yeah, so these are all my guitars. I build guitars here in Vancouver. If you have any questions, if anybody has any questions about guitars, just throw it out. I know I can chat with Tari for a while, but don't worry, Tari, we chat all the time. Don't feel like, oh, I'm not going to interrupt because I'm chatting with Tari. It's okay. I can have 3 conversations going at once. Anybody have any guitar questions? Same with Karen. Karen's just here to stop. Megan's just lurking. Not interrupting in chat. Yeah. But anyway. Yeah, it's I'm unfortunately, I know a little things. Don't think, I'm sure somebody could pick apart some of the things, like an actual music history person could be like, well, Hank's wrong here, Hank's wrong there. I'm sure I'm wrong. I've talked to people with music history degrees, and they know a lot more than me, and I'm like, wow, that's like next level. I know enough that I can ramble on about it. Music history is lame. Yeah, well, you have to read more than chat for that, you know? I'm not much of a musician. I know some people really like it. You know? They really like exploring that, and it's really interesting. DeLongis, you're a pedal nerd, worked at Jim Dunlop for a few years. Oh, nice. Oh, hey, DeLongis, you need to check out Hemel Audio. I don't know if you're following Hemel Audio. Let me throw you a link. So Hemel builds pedals as well. So I would recommend checking out Hemel Audio there. If it came out in the last 2 months, it's already irrelevant. Yeah. Also, if you're interested, Hemel is in our group Discord here. We have a group Discord for guitar builders here on Twitch. If you're interested in finding more guitar builders, we're in that Discord. Plus, there's an electronics section. There's a few guys who also do electronics and amps and things like that. So Hemel Audio is definitely a guy to follow for that if that's what you're into. Orbiter Guitars is also into pedals, making them as well. So definitely, actually here, let me give you Orbiter Guitars as well. You need to follow him. And anyway, that's a good start. That's a good start. But yeah, it's a good group of guys. I'm kind of ignorant of a lot of things. I may seem like I know what's going on, but there's actually the electronics side of things. I can wire a guitar. I haven't yet made any pickups. I don't really know what makes them work, but I know if I put the wires in this way, it'll work. So that's kind of my thing. And it's the same with like music history and music theory. It's like I know how it works theoretically, but I'm not one who partakes in it, you know? That's just not my jam. Hey, Sniffera. Thank you for that follow. Yeah, yeah. Orb is a wealth of knowledge. Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah. Like Orbiter is just um, he just knows a lot of stuff. He's just yeah. It's I whenever I have questions or something, I'll be like, I think Orbiter would know that. A banjitar for strumming. Hey, Drug Zombie, thank you for that follow. Goat Gaudy, that's a tough one because that's kind of what banjos are kind of made for picking. Um, I don't know how I think you're just going to have to learn to strum it. I think that's what you're just going to have to do. Um, you're just yeah. I don't know. I don't think I can help you with that, goat. I'm sorry. Yeah. I know about wood. I need a little name tag that says, "Hi, I'm Hank. Ask me about wood." That's my strength. I play to my strengths. Wood. Woodworking. I am a woodworker. Expensive but nice. Yeah. Oh man, do you want to see some expensive wood? Let me show you. Let me show you. This is this is my next build. Pressure dyed Buckeye burl. That's my fancy build. Nice. That's a good song to know, Tori. I mostly just sand. This is a sanding channel. But anyway, I got some good things on the horizon. My goal is we're halfway through the month. I got 2 weeks left. I gotta finish this burl guitar. And Karen, I'm launching my merch store soon. Yeah, so get ready for Hank Apparel. I've launched my own e-commerce store, original designs. I'm embracing my designer side. Get ready for Honk Couture. That's the hottest new brand this summer. This summer I'm launching my own brand. I build guitars. I'm a designer. Street fashion. Woodshop fashion is where it's at. The luthier fashion. Aprons, don't worry, there's aprons. Hank Apparel. Yeah. What's going on, Terry? Get ready. Hopefully it's launched on either Wednesday or Friday. The store is done. I have to do all the shipping rates for each individual item for every region. And I'm just like, why did I make so many items? Because I'm not just plugging in the Streamlabs thing. I actually made merchandise, and like I didn't make it myself, but I'm using a third party. I did all the different things I want to do. I've linked it to my website. It's a real pain. I don't know why I did this. I could have just made mugs, just easy enough, but no, I didn't have enough to do. So you guys, but it's nice. It's really, it's like I could have done more, and I probably will do more. So yeah, I got tons of apparel, tons. Some of it very ridiculous. Some of it I just made as a joke. And some of it is like actually really nice, but also really weird. So you'll see. I don't want to give away too much more, but get ready. Maybe Friday I'll launch it because everyone's usually here on Friday. Friday will be the big launch. I don't want to say Wednesday because it might not be ready for Wednesday. Hank Bud Guitars now just sells apparel. Oh, embroidered trucker hats. Custom embroidered trucker hats. I was so happy that was my criteria. That's how I was like, I need a place that can make custom embroidered trucker hats. And I found it. And they have 3 different kinds of trucker hats. I went with just the standard classic one, but there's way more I could be doing. So I was like, if I had time, I would do an entire clothing line, which would be ridiculous. Hank apparel. So I was thinking about it now that I'm a big designer. I have to shorten my name, so my brand will just be Hunk. Or maybe not even take out the A, so it's just HNK, Hank. You know? You gotta be pretentious when you're a designer. I'll see you guys at the Paris fashion show next time you see me. People won't even know I build guitars. I design fashion now. As you guys know, I love wood, but I love fashion more. I've talked about it before, my love of fashion and design, but now I'm actually going for it. So get ready. Let me tell you about the guitar. My guitars are lifestyle accessories. That's what I'm high-end. Nice. It's a fine a work boot. Actually, I do. I used to rock Red Wings until I wore them out. Right now, I'm wearing Danner work boots, which are American made in Portland. They don't make these anymore. These are some of the nicest boots that they have. Hey, Stiff17, thank you for that follow. So right now I don't know if you can really see it. Let me tell you about these boots. They're actually really, really nice. And a Vibram sole that you can replace. It's not laminated on. See? Look at that. That's a nice boot. That's a really nice boot. Anyway, Danner, they don't make these anymore, which is kind of unfortunate. So, Red Wings, again, Buds. They were older Red Wings, and what's happening is the race to the bottom. So I had an old pair of Red Wings, and they lasted a long time. Somebody suggested another American company that makes like the mock sole or the mock toe style boot like Red Wings. I forget what they were called, but there is another company that makes boots like that. I'm not so impressed with Red Wings as I used to be. I used to really like them as a brand, but they started outsourcing, and it's just not what it was, and it's unfortunate. But as you guys know, I used to be a cobbler, and that's where let me tell you about my fanciest boots that I don't wear in the shop. I have a pair of Guidi. If you guys have ever heard Guidi, they're Italian made boots. I had them custom made. It was it was a strange time in my life when my boss was like, "Hey, we need to get some donkey shoes." Anyway, they're donkey leather because he was convinced that donkey leather was the best. And so he's like, "We need donkey boots." And so we each bought a pair of donkey boots from Guidi, and it took they weren't custom made, but it was like a custom order. It's like I needed it in this size, and I want it in donkey leather, black donkey leather. And then I was like, I should have got brown. But anyway, very nice boots. They look just like combat boots, actually, like they're high. It's funny. Here's the funny thing. Let me tell you the funny thing. Yeah, I should show you a picture of those boots. Though I wore those boots, I resold them 3 times. That was the nice thing about Red Wings, is what I like about the Red Wings, the ones that I had, there was no heel on them, so they just had the flat sole and just nice and thick. The Red Wing white soles, they wear out a lot faster. I don't know why, but those white Red Wing soles are actually, but they're replaceable. I would wear some of those out in less than a year. Vibram makes very good soles, but they don't sell them in white. So then I had to switch to black soles on it. But anyway, I'll take a picture of my Red Wings. They just got trashed. I wore them till they fell off. Hey, Dark Shadow, thank you for that follow. Anyway. I got a bunch of really nice boots. The bottom line is I came out of the cobbling shop era with a lot of really nice shoes. I have 2 really nice pairs of Guidi. And one of them is a reverse horsehide, so it's like suede. And then the other one are donkey boots. But here's the funny thing. Let me tell you the funny thing. That the boot I bought, I was looking at it, and it was like, that's what boots just used to look like. It's funny that that's now considered a specialty item, to just get a boot from the 1800s. Like, the boot I got looked like an Italian boot from the 1880s. Like, there was nothing exceptional about it, other than it was this Italian company that just kept making the same footwear that the Italians have been making forever, right? But now that's a luxury item to have, just a really nice leather boot that's handmade. But really, it's just a boot from the 1800s. So that's what I like about it, is that it's a really nice boot, but it can be worn casual or it can be worn dress. It can work either way. So it's pretty versatile. You can wear it with jeans, or you can wear it with your fancy pants. Doesn't matter. Yeah. Why change anything? Exactly, Bayshire. Asus, how are you doing? What did you break? How did you break? But that's what my boss at the clarinet, or not the clarinet, the cobbling shop, he was like, you get these boots, Hank, and no matter where you go, you'll always, if you wear these things, you'll walk into the room and you'll know you have the best shoes in the room. That was really important to him, to always have the best quality stuff. He didn't care so much about brands, but he was always concerned about the best quality, which is kind of a good way to be. Okay, Terry, we'll catch you later. Anyway, I think that's a good way to be. Sometimes the more expensive brand is the better one, but nowadays, not so much. Any sort of goodwill that those brands had built as a quality brand over time. Let me tell you something. Gucci's are not made in Italy anymore. They say made in Italy. Maybe the older ones are, but the modern ones, they assemble just enough in Asia, ship them back. They put laces on them in Italy, and then they're like, ooh, these are Italian made. It's like those Gucci loafers are not worth $800. That's all I'm saying. Don't get the Gucci loafers. I know you want them. I know you want to rock those Gucci loafers and be a big man. Let me show you something. Let me grab my Gucci loafers here. I actually do have some Gucci loafers in my... I just remembered that I have them. Okay, let me show you something. Okay, they're covered in dust. Let me just blow these off. Let me show you my Gucci loafers. There's a reason. There's a reason. I know we're supposed to talk about guitars here. But okay, here's some Gucci loafers. Let me tell you how I'm actually trying to sell these, but everybody thinks they're knockoffs because nobody recognizes them, and they're like, I've been trying to sell these things for a while because I don't wear Gucci loafers. Why would I need to wear Gucci loafers? Let me tell you how I got these things. So this woman at the cobbling shop brought in her husband's old Gucci loafers that were worn out. And we were like, oh, that'll be $120 to fix those because they needed to be resoled and like not resoled, soles. New soles put on, new heel. And so she was like, $120 for these old things. And then she was just like, I'll just go buy him some new ones. Anyway, and so she just left them on the counter, these Gucci loafers, and was like, just throw them out, and walked away. And so I put them on, and it was like Cinderella. The Gucci loafers fit. And, Oh, that's too bad, Asus. That sucks. You better just take it easy. Anyway. They fit, and they just need to be rebuilt. So, they just needed to be polished. You can see the leather is fine. It was just, they were just dull because they hadn't been polished in a while. Like the guy didn't know how to polish his own shoes. And so he was like, they're broken. But you can see the leather is really nice. We resoled it. So this whole sole is a new Italian leather sole. I'll tell you why Italian leather is so good. Sorry, we're getting into a cobbling thing, but let me explain why Italian leather is considered good. In Italy, they don't have barbed wire. So the cow leather, the cows aren't rubbing against barbed wire. So the leather is higher quality because it's not scratched up. There's no scars on it and stuff. And so in Europe and stuff, mostly like Italy and all those places, they have stone fences. They don't really have barbed wire like we do out here. Anyway, that's one of the reasons why their leather is considered better. I could go into more leather stuff, but this isn't a leather stream. Anyway, so we rebuilt these ones. Then I shined them up. And so now I have a pair of Gucci loafers. But if you look at these things, they do not look like the current Gucci loafer with the logo on it, and then they have the bridle strap, the horse bridle strap kind of thing. they let you know that they're Gucci loafers, right? Modern Gucci loafers are like, I'm wearing $800 on my feet, peasant. That's what modern Gucci loafers are saying. Or end up like the cheap ones are 800. Anyway, so nobody, because they're all a bunch of ignorant peasants trying to buy status symbols now, they don't know quality, and they don't know that this is actually a higher quality Gucci loafer, and they won't buy it from me. And I've been trying to sell it, and it keeps getting taken down as counterfeit. And it's just like, why are you taking down my ad? And like, it's like, that's a counterfeit. And it's like, no, it is not. That is like, that's what they used to be. Anyway, see? Gucci made in Italy. This one was made in Italy. So anyway, it's probably 20 years old. So it hasn't been maybe 20 or 15 years. But anyway, that's a quality loafer. Unfortunately, I'm not a loafer guy. But that's why they're here in the shop, because I was trying to sell them, and then I'm always at the shop, so I'm like, just come by the shop and check them out. So if anybody wants some reasonably priced Gucci loafers in size 10, hit me up. Or they can just be my shop loafers. Yeah, it's a shoe stream now. It's, anyway. Size 10. Size 10. Yeah. Give you a good deal. I'm selling these for 400 Canadian, which would probably be like 350 US. Real good price. I just don't wear them. I need to get rid of them, and I don't even need to sell them for 800. 400 Canadian. Pretty much brand new. Topies put on. I'm not a loafer guy, as you can tell. Maybe next time I'll just shop loafers. Hank brand shop loafers. Get your new shop loafers. So I repaired a lot of Gucci and Louis Vuitton and all those brands when I was a cobbler. We weren't a shoe maker shop. We were a shoe repair shop, and we did all the high-end repairs for all the fancy stores in town. So I learned a lot about shoes. We're going to end this shoe portion of the stream before I get into women's shoes. Let me tell you something. I'll just throw this out. I have a vast knowledge of women's shoes. No woman has ever taken me shoe shopping, ever. And I could totally help them pick out some nice shoes. And I never get hit up. They're just like, why would I take you shoe shopping? I'm like, because I'd let you know what the deal is here. You know? So. Anyway. Just all this knowledge, just going to waste. I guess I'll just build guitars, because nobody cares about my opinions on women's shoes. Also, stay away from sneaker collecting. Vintage sneakers, don't do it. Those shoes crumble after like 20 years. All that rubber and everything just disintegrates. you can't wear them. There would be so many people who would come in, oh, I just bought this vintage pair of sneakers because they're like, I'm a sneakerhead. And they bring it in and the thing is like falling apart just from sitting in a box. And they're like, hey, can you fix this? And it's like, no, that's not going to glue back together. One of the things I learned was very little of what we're producing nowadays is going to last. And even though it's like I'm not in the shoe world, I learned a lot about quality products, high-end handmade. That was another thing I came in contact with. Hey, Quinn the Wizard, thank you for that follow. I came across a lot of handmade Italian and British shoes, which are beautiful. They're pricey, $4,000 to $5,000, but they'll last for a very long time. So it's kind of like it was very interesting handling a lot of handmade stuff, and then the designer stuff, which is just you're paying for the name. The materials are a little higher quality, like it's not fake leather, but it's like you can't. It's just there's something that's happening culturally that can't go on, and that's this manufacturing of collectability and manufacturing of this brand oriented kind of fervor where people are spending a lot of money for very low quality things because it's a status symbol. So it's if prices keep rising like they are, then you might as well, it's more economical in the long term, even though it's harder. It's more economical in the long term to spend more on something quality than to just keep buying the same cheap thing that keeps breaking over and over again. Like you buy a pair of shoes and then in 6 months they're wrecked, so you just buy another pair of shoes. You know what I mean? Which is fine if that you just need shoes, whatever. But if you want something decent, like I always like to have a decent pair of like work boots or hiking boots, right? I don't want my hiking boots crapping out after 6 months, you know? So, but it's very hard to know. I was actually talking with my old bosses. He wanted to do a YouTube channel about shoe repair and shoe quality and stuff, because he said it was pretty abysmal what's out there, and it really is. I was looking around. There's a few guys who do like YouTube channels, but it would be interesting if somebody was doing like live streaming shoe repair. I think that would work really well for live streaming. I was trying to get my old boss into that, but his shop went under during COVID, so I don't know what his plans are these days. But the same mentality is also can be applied to guitar building. It's the same thing. Like, I get it. You need a guitar. You drop $300 on a Squier, or you can get a used one for $100. And if you need a guitar, that's fine. There's a lot of great musicians who've done quite a lot with a $100 guitar. You know, like you don't need a $10,000 custom Gibson to be able to play your songs. That's been proven over decades that musicianship trumps everything. And I've seen musicians with just the lowest quality pickups, and they can just make them sound so nice. So musicianship trumps everything. But If you do, there are problems with cheaper guitars. They break. The hardware is bad. They don't stay in tune. They're a lot harder to kind of maintain and keep going. They're not reliable. And if you're a working musician, or what happens a lot also that I see is people start out, and obviously you're not going to drop, $2 or $3 grand on your first guitar. But it can be very discouraging if their first guitar is such garbage that it's like they think they're a bad player. Like, oh, I can never get it. I can't play. And it's like, well, it's because your guitar won't stay in tune because the tuners are garbage. Just like there's little things you can do to take even a cheap guitar for a few $100. You can make that thing very playable. You can get new tuners put in. You can take it into a shop, get it set up properly. If it needs a neck, fret adjust, dressing, whatever, just get it. It'll cost you a few $100. Yeah. I think if you're starting out, get the cheap guitar, but get it set up properly. Spend the extra $100 to get it set up by a professional tech, so that at least you know what it should feel like. There's a lot of people, they just assume it's like, they just get used to it's like super high action, and they're just like, oh yeah, that's just how a guitar is. It's super uncomfortable. I was talking to this one guy, his first guitar, it was like an amp. I forget what it was. It was just some cheap Chinese like guitar amp combo for $100, $150, right? And he says it's so uncomfortable to play. The action is really high, and it's just like, dude, it just needs a setup, But he didn't know that because he was just a kid, and that's the guitar he got. So he's just like, well, that's what it is. But there are a lot of things you can do to upgrade. A lot. The problem with the really cheap guitars is you don't really know what wood they are. You can always get better pickups, and upgrading the pickups is always a good thing. Upgrading the pickups will change your guitar the most. If you want to change the sound, upgrade the pickups. Yeah, exactly. Longest. It's it does go like it shouldn't hurt your hands to play the guitar. Also, like it shouldn't be painful. And I think that's the thing is like people once you become familiar with something, you do, and you can get very used to like being in pain and hardship, because I don't know, it's something about humans, like we do become accustomed to hardship. And so it's like if you do have a guitar that hurts your hands, you're just like, oh, that's just what playing is. It's like, oh, my hand really hurts now, but it really shouldn't hurt you. Yeah, like just replacing pots, replacing some of the hardware in it, it can do a lot. The ergonomics you can't really change. Like that's the thing. It's like as long as, even if it's cheap, as long as the ergonomics are fine, It's like it should be okay. That's one decent thing about cheaper guitars. They tend to be fairly light because the wood is cheaper. So at least they're not heavy. They're not mahogany. I think also the how you play and what kind of music you're playing will have a big effect on what kind of guitar you need to be comfortable with. Most people just make do. You just make do with what you got. And like I said, most young musicians have all made do with what they got. And that was kind of the whole Jack White thing was, I'm going to use this Sears guitar. He doesn't use that Sears guitar anymore. But when he was doing White Stripes, it was a statement in minimalism. And, he made hit songs with that Sears guitar just by being creative. Like, like that bass riff for Seven Nation Army. He didn't have a bassist, so he needed to, he just tuned the bass string a little differently and did that riff. And it was just kind of like, it's so simple, but it worked, And now it's a stadium anthem. He's probably the last musician to have a stadium anthem, But Jack White does not play Sears guitars anymore. That guy has a lot of really nice guitars. And he will get guitars custom made for his shows. He's a Fender Gretsch artist now. So he gets all the custom shop stuff. Randy Parsons builds all of his guitars. Randy has been building his guitars since like the mid 2000s. That's another interesting thing, though, is the companies, the guitar companies like Fender and stuff are really hurting for young talent. Even though guitars are super accessible, the thing right now about guitars is if you pick up the guitar right now, there is so much resources to learning that if there's a young kid who just wants to learn to play guitar, they can learn anything, and it's right there. But the guitar is not a big. It's not the center of kind of culture at this point. Or guitar music. They all want to be YouTube rappers or something. What do the kids want to be? Streamers. That's what they want. They want to be streamers and YouTubers. They don't want to play guitar. It's a lot of work. I was talking to this one guy who came in for a class here. He's a very good guitar player. And he was talking about being a kid. I think he's a little bit older. He's like a Gen Xer. And so he was saying, like, he was a teenager in the 80s. So he was a young kid in the 70s, teenager in the 80s. And he said that, like, everyone played guitar. All the guys played guitar because they were all mimicking what they saw in the media, like, I'm going to be the guitar guy. And then, it's like, it was the 80s. It was peak guitar. We reached peak guitar in the 80s. It was the most opulent time for guitar players. Guitar players never had it as good as they did in the 80s. They were celebrated worldwide. Their personal behavior had absolutely zero repercussions on them, and they could just tour the world in their tight pants and big hair, sharing their music of the guitar to adoring fans. Then it ended, and we haven't. It's all been downhill since then, as far as the guitar as the center of the cultural discourse in the West. So, what do we do now? What do we do now? But I thought that was interesting, where he was saying when he was young, everyone knew how to play guitar. Not everyone knew how to play it well, but he was saying that the competition, the level was actually very high, because there was a few guys who were really awesome, and everyone was like, oh, I have to be as good as that guy. So when you have a peer group, and that happens with all things, when you have like a peer group where there's kind of that healthy competition, where you're just kind of like, you're seeing one person do something really cool and then you want to do it, that can kind of accelerate the learning process, because it's like you get that kind of like motivation from that, right? But when all you do, your only motivation is like watching someone that you've put on this pedestal as the best, and you're just trying to replicate that, but then you're also like, well, you know, he's the best, I can just try and do it. It creates a different, like, it's not as like competitive, because you're not going to compete with Megadeth, you know, or something like that. But when it's your peer group, when it's just your buddy whom you've grown up with, and you're both like learning riffs and doing solos, it can get way more intense. Like I said, in a good way, like you can just kind of play off each other's energy, and then you get that kind of youthful kind of attitude. It can really, like we saw it have a huge impact in guitar music. Was it for the better? I don't know, but it definitely, that time and space produced a lot of crazy music, you know. The 70s, man. The 70s. All the music that was kind of invented in the 70s all came into its own in the 80s. Like metal came about in the late 70s, but it didn't make its like big debut until the 80s. Same with like hip hop, 70s. All that stuff is 70s. The 70s produced everything. There was more music produced in the 70s than any of the other decades. The 70s was just like insane how much music was produced. Not all of it was good, but there was just a lot of music being produced and a lot of music being consumed. It was a very, because everything was accessible, you could work like a minimum wage job and still be able to like have a car and buy a guitar and do all those things, you know. Not that you didn't have to struggle, like there was always struggle, but it would be very, very hard to be a young kid right now, trying to make it, get their band together and make it in music. It's also very expensive to record that kind of music. You know, you have like 4 or 5 piece band, transporting everything. A turntable and a microphone is way easier. Though a Gibson Dove in 1976 was $750, That's still pretty pricey. What's that adjusted to inflation? Today's inflation. But the dollar was worth a lot more. So it's kind of crazy when you look at everything that we're dealing with now as far as like economics and inflation. It's been like this, it's been a downhill since like the 70s was like kind of the peak, and then the late 70s it was just like started crashing, and then never, it would dip up a little bit, but the purchasing power has gone down. And the Gibsons were still made in America as well. Like, though there are Gibsons still made in America, but there was still a manufacturing base at that time, which is interesting to think about, you know, in relation to everything. It's very strange. I don't know what, again, we've already reached like the bottom, like the race to the bottom. Everything that has been outsourced has been outsourced. There's not going to be another Indonesia that they can outsource guitars to, you know? Like this is the lowest that you can make a guitar. You know? It can't get any lower. Let me tell you something. And this is something to tie it back into the shoe thing. Okay, so back in the day, to get a nice pair of shoes would cost you, like, I mean 100 years ago, like in the early 1900s or late 1800s, early 1900s, to get a good pair of shoes was 1 gold coin, right? So like an ounce of gold. That hasn't changed. So it's like to get a good pair of shoes, like handmade leather shoes, it'll cost you as much as what an ounce of gold would be today. So it's the value of things, of quality handmade things, actually doesn't change. Prices go up and all those things, but handmade stuff is relation to things that retain value, stays consistent. Whether there's people who have a gold coin for shoes or not, like there's fewer and fewer of them around these days. One could say the same, and that's another thing. Let's talk about the economics of guitars. That's another thing, was the driving force behind guitar sales and guitar music were the baby boomers. And the baby boomers aren't necessarily driving music anymore, but they are the majority of the higher end guitar sales. They are still buying guitars. But it is... that market won't be around forever, right? So it's kind of like, what kind of guitars do the millennials want? Do the millennials, now that the older, and some are making them. It's a good time to get into it. So, I think about, so some of the older millennials are like my age, late 30s. You know, some of them early 40s. They're more established now. They have money to buy like a nice guitar. Some of them aren't, but there are millennials who made it. And I'm trying to think of what does a millennial want? They mostly like metal guitars. All the millennials I know who buy custom guitars, they all buy metal guitars. Hank Bud guitars will just be metal guitars now. Okay. Okay. I'm all in marketing mode right now. I'm doing all my e-commerce stuff and getting my brand in order. And so now the next thing is like, oh, where am I going to kind of focus my attention for my guitars? I think the streaming is really good. Nobody else is really doing what we're doing. But Bumstead, me, Manny. There's a few other luthiers from France and Spain on Twitch, but we're the biggest luthiers on Twitch right now. For the few who stream. So it's like that's interesting in our little niche, our little corner of the world. We'll see where it goes. Here's another thing I was thinking about. Just give me a second, but I had thoughts. I was thinking about the YouTube. I'm not knocking any of the YouTube builders, but I just thought it was kind of strange because like they're making money off their videos, which is good, but it's like when you're kind of like building guitars so that other guitar builders like are watching your videos. Are they actually buying guitars? Because they're just there to learn to make their own. It's kind of a weird market to court. But whatever. That's just my opinion. Marketing. I'll just pay someone to market my stuff. I'll just build the guitars and somebody else can figure out how to sell the guitars. That's another thing, is speaking about generational differences. Like the main driving force with custom guitars, a lot of the guys who do custom guitars, like they started in the 70s. The guys that I know, the older generation that are starting to retire now, they pretty much taught themselves how to build in the 70s just from books, magazines and things, or they would travel to Spain or somewhere and have someone teach them. But a big driving force to the guitar world for custom guitars were guitar shows and guitar magazines. Guitar magazines are gone. I think Guitar World or whatever, Guitar Connoisseur, like those magazines are still around online, but they're just legacy media. Like they still exist just because it's like, ooh, that's Guitar Connoisseur. but they obviously don't have the millions in readership that they once did. So it's like that was a big place to show off guitars, and I was trying to find some stuff on Randy Parsons, which he was a real big builder in the 90s. He's still a very big builder, but he doesn't have a really huge online presence. He's been doing custom stuff for Gretsch for the last few years, 10 years, 8 years or something. So he's not working on Parsons guitars. When you start to work for Fender or them, you don't build your own anymore. Anyway, I was just trying to find some photos of some of his guitars, and I could not find anything of any of these guitars, because all of his stuff was like, it was not on social media. It was right before social media. You can find some stuff, but not like nowadays when you search like a modern builder, you can find all their stuff. Anyway, a lot of his work is not really as accessible as it was. And so it's just kind of interesting seeing these kind of like how the guitar industry has changed for boutique builders. There's still guitar shows. Obviously, we didn't have guitar shows for the last 2 years. So there was really nothing going on except online sales, I guess. Though apparently people were able to save up quite a bit of money by not going out and stuff. So some of them were buying guitars. There was a boom. There was a guitar boom during the lockdown of people learning to play guitar. They weren't necessarily buying boutique guitars to learn on, but there were some people buying guitars. But now that the lockdown is over, where do we go from here? I haven't even been planning for guitar shows. Of course, there's NAMM. I'm not going to NAMM this year. The North American, that's the big one in the NAMM show is the big one in California. About $10,000 for a booth. Usually what happens is luthiers will split the costs and get booths together. That's how you kind of do it. But if you want a booth, I think it goes for like 10 grand. So you just get 4 people together and each throw in, some cash into that. That's usually how it's done. It's kind of expensive to do that, but it's worth it. Yeah, you get invited to NAMM. Yeah, it's the big show. That's where everyone is. You make contacts. I've never been there. Meredith and Will go down. I'm not going down until they invite me to go down. It would be interesting to do some live streaming down there. It's just thousands and thousands of people just going through. Like it's a good contact place, but it's something that I hadn't really thought of yet, because it just wasn't on my radar as a thing. One, I didn't have a guitar brand, so if you're wondering why I'm talking about all this stuff, is because I have to process all these things, because like I did not have a plan when I started building. I was just building because it was just something to do, and now it's like, oh, I can take it to the next step and do different things, so it's like, because I kind of have to do I kind of have to see where this goes. Like I'm at a point now where it's like, oh, I got to go for it. Even though like I've said it's not a dream of mine to have a guitar brand. It's not like something that I'm like, oh, someday I'll do this. It's not really like that. Though it's become that. Someday I'll show you. Someday I'll have my guitar brand and everyone will love my guitars. I had nothing to prove. I was just building guitars. But now I have to start thinking about those things. Which I'm just a simple woodworker. Just a simple man. And when you do boutiques, like you got to be your own boss. You gotta do that marketing. I'm so unfamiliar with the whole world of guitar building. Honestly, like I was never a guitar guy. So I'm like, I just never moved in that world. So it's very unfamiliar to me. It's not daunting. I'm not like intimidated by it. I just don't know enough. I'm just ignorant. That's all I am. And I know I'm ignorant. And I'm like, I need to learn some things. I have things to learn. But that's one thing, is that accelerated learning curve. When you start down a path, you end up having to pick up other skill sets that you haven't really honed before. And so, like, sure, I can build a guitar, but talking to a guitar player and being like, hey, you should really try my guitar because of this, it's that's a different thing. Though I can stream. I'm not intimidated by it. I've just only been streaming and just doing my guitar builds, slowly progressing. Those who've been watching the stream have seen the progression. It didn't happen overnight, but it has happened fairly quickly, I started prototyping the Hank Budd guitars last year. Around this time, I had my third guitar, and I got my second commission around this time in May of last year, which isn't bad. So it was like, just trying to get better. And that's another thing, is like I really, I'm not really, I don't know, maybe it is an ego thing. I don't think it's an ego thing. I think it's more of like maybe more of an insecurity, but it's like I would feel really bad if I let an instrument go that wasn't good. So I'm pretty picky and meticulous about all my little things, because it's just like I would feel pretty bad if I let something slide and then somebody paid money for it, So it's eventually you do have to kind of just let it go, and whatever it is, it is. Handmade is handmade. It's not going to be perfect. Wood isn't perfect. Nothing's perfect. That's part of its charm. So there's this fine line. With custom builds. is you can try and just make it meticulous and replicate something like I'm doing a classic Fender Jazzmaster and I'm spraying it in nitro and it looks exactly like the thing, and people appreciate that. But when you're doing your own thing and they know it's handmade, they know it's not a factory build, but it's beautiful. It's like, it's not perfect, but it's different, and it's unique, I guess. Is its charm is in unique. Now, when something is unique, you can get away with a little bit of stuff that you wouldn't normally get away with, and you can't let too much slide just because it's like, oh, I'm an artist, I'm just letting it be that way. It's like, for me, I've tried to refine all the things. I don't know if I'm explaining it. Refine all the things that that work stylistically with what I'm doing, so it looks handmade, but it's also very well done. It doesn't look janky. That's the thing. It's like, I guess that's what I'm getting at, is there's like handmade, like, oh, you made that yourself, and it's like crooked and and it's like, it has a certain charm. It's like, oh yeah, you totally made that yourself. But you want to be in the category of like, oh, you made that yourself? Wow, that's some really nice workmanship. So handmade can have two different kind of connotations to it, that you kind of, depending on your workmanship, can kind of fall into either of those categories. But both are handmade. So I think that's what it is that I want it to look handmade, but I don't want it to look janky, I think, is the thing. But I want to remind people, and there's certain things that are just not going to be exactly perfect. If you look really closely, it's just, if you took calipers to certain things, it'd be like, oh, that's not quite even with that, Of course, it has to be a playable instrument first and foremost. There's certain things you can do to show off your handmade build. I did a little bit of that with you can't see it, with a bound fingerboard with the blue strip in there. You see that mostly in acoustic guitars. But those are things that you absolutely will not see in a factory guitar. Now, of course, all these production guitars have custom shops. So you got like PRS Custom Shop, right? So in a way, what one guy, a marketer, told me was, he was just straight up, and he was like, how is your guitar, how will your guitar stand out from Fender Custom Shop? Why would I get your guitar over Fender Custom Shop if it's the same price point? What are you doing better? So a big part of doing boutique guitars is educating the person on what you're doing. That's kind of the sell. It's not the same thing, because you don't have this brand or this name to kind of like go off. So it's very personal. It becomes a very personal exchange of value, as Rhino would say. What is an equitable exchange of value? So, and a lot of times it comes down to whether they just like you or not. Like, they like your story. They want to be part of it. They want to contribute and have a piece of it. It's, it becomes very human. And I think that's one of the things that you have when you do a custom instrument for someone. Like, it's a very personal thing. It's like, I made this for you. It's not for everyone. It's not just going on the shelf for just like when they're commissioned. It's like it's their guitar. It's one of a kind. You know, it's special. It makes the person special. The object is special, and there's very little of that in the modern consumer world. There's very little that is special. That's why, again, tying it back to the shoe thing at the start where I was talking about Gucci is just a label that people use to show off. They want to feel special. Buying that consumer luxury item is not going to make you special. Maybe it'll impress your friend circle, but if it impresses your friend circle, you probably don't want to be rolling with that crew. And at the end of the day, they just want something of value that's like, I want, something that's significant, I think. Or they're special. Panic's, what's going on? How was your weekend, Panic? Were you partying? Yeah, you agree? Nice. I'm glad Panic agrees. I'm just rambling. I'm just polishing frets and talking smack. That's what I do around here. Everyone's special. Like, that's the thing, Rock and Raj. Papa Doom. What's going on, Papa Doom? Papa Doom makes his appearance. Like, that's the thing, Rock and Raj. Your daughter got a one-of-a-kind ukulele. Because she's special. Your daughter is special, DJ Rock and Raj, and she deserved that ukulele. Just finished bottling beer. Nice. What kind of beer did you bottle? You didn't win? How many points? Hanks! ! Hanks. There you go. Oh man. You're getting there. You're getting there. You almost have. You gave away all your Hanks the last time, Panic. You need 2,500. A Pilsner and a red ale. Very Saskatchewan of you. Man, I don't know why Pill is so popular in Saskatchewan. So if you guys ever go to Saskatchewan, they love Pilsners there. As opposed to the rest of Canada, which is kind of lagers. Everybody drinks lagers. But Saskatchewan, they love Pilsners. I don't know why. A lot of Bohunks. Bohunks love their Pilsners. You guys probably haven't heard that term before, but in Saskatchewan we have a term called Bohunk. It's kind of a term for it's kind of an Eastern European hillbilly. So in Saskatchewan, we had a lot of massive influx of like Eastern European migration at the turn of the century. Lots of like Ukrainians and Czechs and Russians and stuff. So it's just like bohunks, just these peasants, these bohunks from like Eastern Europe. I'm part bohunk, by the way, so I can use that word. Oh, you had a rough night tonight? Oh, that's too bad, Rock and Raj. There you go. There you go, Panic. You have 0 Hanks. Panic, you got a ticket. Congratulations. Yeah. There you go. How does it there? You got your ticket. Do you feel like a winner, Panic? We still have 2 more weeks till the giveaway. Rock and Raj is rolling in Hanks. It's your fault. It's Papa Doom's fault. It's everybody's fault. It's definitely the buck stops at Papa Doom. All problems. You can live with that. This is all your fault. I've got so many things to do. Uh-oh. Whoa, Tim Riel. What's going on? Mazel Tov Cocktail, Ham in Transit. Hey, thank you for that follow, Yulo Dinin. What's going on? Art and Jest, how are you doing? What's going on? Hey, Suited Monkey, thank you for that follow. Whoa. Man, things are getting crazy around here. Panic. I'm bored. Toys, thank you for that follow. Invasion from Code Nameshin. Mazel Tov Cocktail. Thank you for that follow. Panic, thank you for those subs. There's so much going on. You guys are like breaking my stream. The Poofy 90, thank you for that follow. You guys. Hey, Jenathi, thank you for that follow. Let me show you. Let me show you what I've been working on. Hey, Tim Riel, thank you for that follow. And thank you for that raid. What were you up to tonight, Tim? This is what I'm working on right now. Hey, Kingdom Mischief, thank you for that follow. This is the guitar I'm working on right now. Man, bring in. Look what you did. Look what you did, Tim. You got Panic all excited. You're doing your game show. Nice. What sort of game show do you do? Hey, Captain Katamari and Banana Bones, thank you for that follow. So, once I'm caught up, Peter Gavins, thank you for that follow. So many people. So, I got things. I'm working on this guitar. Oh man, thank you for that. You guys, bring in the hype. This is a Paduke body with Buckeye Burl. And this is my latest. Detect Magic, thank you for that follow. So many people here. We do the official Codenames game show. It's a comedy game show based on the board game. Nice. I'll have to check that out. That's a good idea, actually. That's a really good idea. Man, Panic's going to town. Yeah. You guys started a hype train. Oh man. Let me show you guys. Panic. Tim, thank you for that resub. Or that subscription. Let me tell you, Tim, I'll just put this aside right now. I'm doing a ukulele giveaway for subscribers on June 1st. Let me show you the giveaway. Uke. So Tim, if you want a ticket, just do ! ticket because you get enough for the giveaway when you subscribe. You have to be a subscriber, but when you subscribe, you get enough for one ticket. And so this is the giveaway. There we go. This is handmade. Yes. For some reason, it doesn't let you know, but you did get one. Peter Gevins, thank you for that sub. So this will be June 1st. This giveaway. So this is Indian rosewood and maple. I did this inlay by hand. You can see all the little pieces there. And anyway, you still have time. If you want more tickets, you just watch. And if you're a subscriber, you use your Hanks, we call them, and you can accumulate more by watching, subbing, and cheering and stuff. Like what Panic's doing right now. Panic is trying to get more for the giveaway, June 1st. So you still have time. You still have a couple weeks to get more tickets, and you can just get more just by viewing. You accumulate a certain amount just by watching. You can check out the details. Give away right there. and you can see how many tickets and everything you got. So yeah, oh, thanks, Tim. I appreciate you bringing your people here. I haven't been doing many ukuleles this year. I've been focusing more on my my electric guitars. So I kind of wanted to do, I'm not saying it's my last ukulele giveaway, but I just don't see myself doing ukuleles much for the next little while. So it's kind of like, let's go out with a bang. So this is going to be my craziest giveaway for the ukulele. So I've already done like 5 or 6 ukulele giveaways. But here's the thing, Tim. If you win it, it comes with a terrible burden, is then you must become a ukulele streamer, because everyone will know you have it and they'll go onto your channel and be like, Tim, we wanted to hear you play the ukulele. And even if you don't know how to play, you're going to have to learn. And then no more game shows. It'll just be ukulele streams from here on in. So that's the one downside. But you get a nice ukulele, you know. Panic, challenge accepted. Okay. There was a couple streamers that have won my ukulele. An Irish guy named Liamykins won one, and a wood turner here in the makers section won another one, Star Craving Metal Breakdown. Panic will learn a song. Panic, you must become a ukulele streamer. This one is like hundreds of pieces of wood. This was peak insanity for me. Peak insanity. But it's very nice. I'm going to remake this top for a electric guitar. So don't worry. It won't be the last time you see this motif. But it turned out really well. I just made this with scrap wood in the shop because I had just this scrap wood. Oh man. Whoa, Karen. I appreciate that, Karen. Turk Stoops, get your ticket now. Level 3 hype train. Man, Tim, you look what you caused. Look what you caused to happen. Anyway, so that's the main thing that's going on. What are you getting after? Oh, the dog just grabbed a. I have a dog here, and I have to deal with this. He just grabbed something he shouldn't. Give me 1 second. Here, I'll see if I can get the camera on him. Emmett, drop that. Drop that, Emmett. Right now. No. I gotta chase. Come on, Emmett. Okay, he dropped it, everybody. It was a thing of epoxy. I really didn't want him getting, there's a little bit left in there. It was a tube of epoxy. No. So this is Emmett here. Oh, I'm sorry. Emmett wants to play right now. He's 6 months old. Yes, he dropped it. Yeah. Yeah. He does this. He hasn't got enough attention today, and so he's just like, why? He tore it up. That ukulele took a few weeks. I can't remember how many hours it did. I think it took like maybe 60, I would say about 60 hours to make that thing. But it didn't cost me anything because I made it with scraps. So it was just time. It just cost me nothing but time. But I was in peak ukulele mode there. Anyway. So this is what I'm working on right now. So I'll just kind of explain this. This is Buckeye burl. That's pressure dyed Buckeye burl that's been stabilized with resin. It just looks like a painting. So I was doing some pore filling. I'm going to do a gloss finish on this one. So this is kind of why I'm like kind of moving away from the ukuleles. I really like doing art instruments. And the great thing about the electric guitar is the art is on the front. So I can do like a really nice top and it's right on the front. Whereas with an acoustic, it's like I'm hanging that ukulele behind because nobody ever sees the art when you put art on the back of an acoustic. So it's like that's why I'm kind of leaning more towards doing art electrics. And so right now this is the neck for it. I'm just doing the frets right now, just cleaning those up. It's taped off. The blue is just tape. It's just so it doesn't contaminate the fingerboard, but this thing is getting close to being finished. Hey, Hate Spirit, how are you doing? Oh, this one, I'll show you. So this is a semi-hollow black walnut one with ebony inlay in there. So this is kind of what this is the last one I did. And it's a really, really nice instrument, but it's also very artistic as well. So it hits all the things that I like in instruments. Panic is in charge now. What are we going to do, Panic? What do you want everyone to do? What are you going to command them to do? You like the guitar with the beard? I was trying some new beard cream this weekend, actually, Panic. Thank you for noticing. Watch Hank now. One piece black walnut with a flame maple neck. So you can see the flame in there. And then it's like I have all the little nice level 3 hype train completed. Thank you guys. Everyone must watch Hank. Thank you guys for that level 3 hype train. You're the train. Yeah, so here's the problem, Lime. I tried this beard cream and I was like, it was a BC company. I'm in Vancouver, Canada. It was like Rocky Mountain beard products, right? And I was like, oh, what kind of, scents do they have? I was trying to find something with wood. Like cedar. I wanted a kind of a cedar smelling one, or pine or something rugged and wood related. All I could find was sandalwood. And so I got sandalwood and it was just too perfumey. My beard looks great, but it was just too perfumey smelling. So I was very disappointed with the smell. And I'm like, I don't want to smell like that. It just wasn't a manly aroma. That was the problem. It worked great though, but not a manly aroma. So now I'm in search again of another beard cream, but I like the cream over the oil. So maybe I'll try that whiskey and hard track. I'm going to look into it. What kind of manly aromas do they have? Let me show you some other things. Here's another one I did. I think I was hanging out with too many Texans on Twitch. Is there any Texans in the crowd right now? I was hanging out with way too many. There's so many Texans on Twitch. Anyway, this came out and I was making this. I had all this different wood and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to kind of make something. I had this look at this beautiful piece of Kaya mahogany. Oh, JB, good. We got one Texan here. It's all your fault, JB. Beautiful one piece of mahogany. Look at that Kaya mahogany. Just really nice and bright orange. And then a flame maple neck. You can see all the flame in there. really nice. Ebony fingerboard, and then black limba top with the buffalo skull in there. It's not going over very well here in Canada, this guitar. I need to send this down to Texas. I need to find some Texan. There's going to be a Texan somewhere who loves this thing. The Abduction. Yeah, Karen calls it the Abduction. It's a weird guitar, I know. I had a guy. It sounds really, really nice. It sounds really good. Had this guy come in and play it. He loved the sound, but he's like, I'm not so into that skull inlay. So this one has a very classic Telecaster sound, very country, but also in a good way. It's like it's twangy,